Welcome back to the Relationships Made Simple for Men podcast with me, Bryce Bauer. I'm stoked to be here with you today because I'm talking about something that I have spent a lot of time working on personally, and this is something that I have to help a lot of men with. This is one of the most common patterns that I see. But before I get into that, I just want to state the reason why I started this podcast in the first place. I'm personally committed to trying to help men up their relational game because relationships are the most important skill that you can learn in your life. And if we can figure this out, if we can get better at this, we can change the world. Every issue that humans deal with is a relational problem at its core. Politics, wars, the sharing of resources, helping people improve their life circumstances. These are all relational problems. We have the technology. We just have to figure out how to talk about things in a constructive way. Admittedly, I probably watch too much news or read about too much news, and I am constantly amazed at how poorly world leaders communicate. They will lie, blame, not take accountability in any way, refuse to show any empathy to the other side. And I know we can chalk this up to the political game, but it's really hard to watch. Just because this is the way it's always been done doesn't mean that it's the way that we need to keep doing it. And although you and I might not be a part of those conversations, we can change the way that we relate to each other in our own marriages, in our own families, and in our own communities. I really believe that we can affect change from the bottom up. We can't expect it to come from the top because it's not coming. And in my observation, I think that men need more help doing this than women. So there's that. I run an online men's group. I have a in-person men's retreat happening next month in September. You can pack a lot of learning in a short amount of time while being on vacation. It's pretty cool. And Jenny and I have just started a new group program, which I will include in the link in the description. You can get 3 months of group coaching and all of our online resources for the cost of a one therapy session. I don't know how long we're going to offer it at this rate for. So if you are looking for some support and you like what I have to say, then I suggest checking it out. There's also a 100% satisfaction guarantee, so you really have nothing to lose. Okay, so let's dive into the topic. The 3 do's and the 3 don'ts when communicating with an anxious partner. And when I say anxious, I don't mean just generally anxious. I mean that you two polarize into an avoidant and anxious pattern, where more often she wants to talk and lean in, and you have a harder time staying with it and you want to leave. In heterosexual relationships, men and women tend to play out this pattern. I'll start with the 3 don'ts and then unpack it from there. When you notice that your partner's relationship anxiety is kicked up, you don't threaten to leave the relationship, you don't dismiss their concerns, and you don't try to use your logic to convince them to feel otherwise. I see men get tripped up here all the time. Those 3 things don't work. So let's talk about the first one, threatening to leave. What this looks like is you in a more activated state, saying you're going to leave the relationship and then not following through. If you want to leave the relationship, that's fine, but you need to take accountability for how you're showing up in the relationship. You can still leave intentionally, you can still be kind, but using threats to hurt your partner or gain leverage and then not doing anything about it, that degrades your partner's trust in your word, their safety with you, and it ultimately makes you into a liar. If you keep saying you're going to do something over and over and then you don't do it, what does that say about you? And if you only do this when you're really upset, it means that you don't have any self-control. You just say things. If you really want to leave a relationship, don't say it in the middle of a fight. Take your time, get some support with it, and if that's what you really want to do, bring it to your partner in a conscious way and say, hey, I love you. I'm really sad that this didn't work out. And what I'm going to choose to do is to leave the relationship. That's all fine. You have a right to do that. But these constant threats about leaving or saying that you can find someone better or blaming your partner for all of your relational problems, that's immature, it's ineffective, and ultimately you're shooting yourself in the foot. If you want more security in the relationship, if you want your partner to trust you more. I see guys get caught in this trap all the time where they behave poorly, they say mean things, they threaten to leave, and then they're upset that their partner doesn't get over it quicker. Oh, they don't feel safe with me. They don't want to have sex with me anymore. They feel cold. They feel distant. And I'm like, yeah, you should expect that when you behave that way. And I get it. Sometimes if you feel like your partner is really coming at you and being mean to you, you want to dish it right back. But the reality is that the dust is going to settle and you're going to have to deal with the consequences of what you said. So removing threats to leave the relationship in the middle of a conflict is a good move. It's just much harder to come back from that. You can say, I feel scared. I feel angry. I feel sad. I feel disconnected. I don't like how you're being right now. Those are all fine. Hollow threats do no good. Okay, so let's move on to number 2, which is dismissing concerns. This one is a little more tricky because we can do this in more subtle ways, but the less subtle ways are just simply to say, you shouldn't be anxious about that. There's something wrong with you. I wouldn't feel anxious about that, so I don't see why you are. Oh, that's not a big deal. Those are all blatant ways to dismiss your partner's concerns. And this is another one that I would completely remove from your vocabulary, really with anyone. When in the history of people being anxious did telling someone that they shouldn't be anxious ever work? A lot of people's parents dealt with things this way. The phrase, I'll give you something to cry about, is a way of saying, you shouldn't feel the way you do, and I will beat it out of you. The first thing that we have to do with feelings is just make space for them and have compassion for them, even if we don't understand it at first. So again, dismissing your partner's concerns never works. And go ahead and do your own research on this one. If anyone finds that dismissing concerns works well in relationships, I'd love for you to let me know how you did that and why you think it worked. But in my experience, it never does. Okay, so moving on to the third one, don't try to use your logic to convince them otherwise. I see men get stuck here all the time. This is one of those things that I think men will continue to do for their entire lives unless someone points it out to them and explains why it doesn't work. And I still get stuck in this losing strategy even though I know what it is. And I know we could say that this is how men's brains work generally, and so maybe this is why we do it. But in heated moments, especially, this one tends to not have the impact that we think it will have. Once in a while, it can, and I'll give you some examples, but mostly no. So an example of trying to use your logic to convince your partner to feel otherwise would be if you said something and they had a feeling come up around it. Let's say you said, I think you have an Amazon addiction. And your partner was really hurt by that. And they said, no, I'm often looking for ways to improve our home and buy things for the kids and buy things for us. And then you come back with, well, the definition of addiction is doing something over and over and not having control of it, and you don't seem to be able to stop. And you even said that sometimes you buy things that you don't need and then you have to return them. That's you using your logic to convince them of something. And then they get defensive and you're talking about the definition of addiction or wherever the conversation goes. But what a lot of men miss is the underlying feeling. How do you think she felt when you said you have an Amazon addiction? She probably felt misunderstood, maybe sad, angry. And instead of taking some time to bring awareness around that, how would it feel to hear that statement? Or noticing how she responded to that statement, you just went into your brain and tried to explain why this makes sense to you, why you said it. And there's a time and place for that. But if you're the type of guy that just has thoughts appear in his head and just speaks them out loud without any awareness or direction as to what you're trying to accomplish with saying it, you're missing the plot of what relationships are really about. We feel most connected and most safe in relationships when we feel like we have the ability to show up as we are. Once we feel like we're accepted as we are, our guard begins to drop. And when we feel like there is trust there, emotional safety, that's when we can start to handle more criticisms and more concerns and negative feelings. I kind of think about it like jujitsu. When two people who don't know what they're doing try to do jujitsu with each other, there's more chance that they're going to hurt each other because they don't have control yet. They don't really know how to do the moves. They're just pulling on things, yanking on things. Whereas a black belt is more intuitive. They know their own strength, they have a lot of self-control, and they can apply pressure as needed. So that's one way to think about it. If you're continually getting looped into patterns or you're hurting each other, it could be because you're both white belts. You may know some of the tools, but you don't have the skillfulness yet to use them. Okay, so let's move on to the 3 do's when communicating with an anxious partner. Number 1 is be stable and consistent. Number 2 is offer reassurance. And number 3 is listen and validate. Number 1 really has a lot to do with your own way of being. Do you, through your actions in the world, show that you can take care of yourself? Women really want a man who knows how to take care of himself mentally, physically, and emotionally. If he can't do that for himself, how is he going to be there for her? Our nervous system is always assessing, are we safe? Is this person safe? We can't turn it off. And unfortunately, because of the way that we're wired, we're more likely to interpret things negatively than we are positively. So we have to put in extra effort to be a safe person. And if you're wondering why relationships are so hard, I could probably sum it up with just that fact. We are hardwired to look for danger everywhere. And our partner is the thing that our nervous system is tracking the most. So that's a lot of pressure for one person. It makes sense that we get spooked and read really deeply into things because it's our highest stakes relationship. So we have to make more space to be okay with us doing that with each other. Are you okay? Seems like maybe something's off. Yeah, let me check in. And the more honest we can be about that, the more our partner will start to trust us. Because if they start feeling like something's off and you keep denying it, there's a dissonance that gets created. Your word is not consistent with your actions. And it is helpful if we can be more predictive in the way that we show up in the relationship. If sometimes we're fun and laid back and other times we're just like blowing up, that can create some paranoia in our partner. That can kick up their anxiety. We need to learn how to manage that so that it's not a roller coaster, which brings me to point number 2, which is offer reassurance. When our partner is feeling anxious about the security of the relationship, we have to find ways to let them know that we're here, that we're not going anywhere. And anxious partners often need this more than we realize. So if your partner says something like, yeah, sometimes I'm afraid you're going to leave me. I'm afraid you're going to find somebody else. You need to drop in with her in that space, put a hand on her back, give her a hug, and let her know, I'm not going anywhere. I am here. I will do whatever it takes to figure this out. Your anxiety is not a problem. I'm committed to this. If you can do that every time, you're golden. And you don't have to wait for your partner to be anxious to do this. I try to do this a little bit every day. Every day, I say things to Jenny like, hey, Jen, love you. You're the best. And I am genuine when I say it. I just need to remind myself to say it. And what this does is it starts to wire the brain. Bryce isn't going anywhere. He loves me. He cares about me. And it doesn't take much time. A few seconds, a few times a day goes a long way. And if our partner is asking for something simple to help curb their anxiety, for instance, something like telling us where we're going to go and when we're going to be back, there's no reason to get your ego involved. If it takes 3 seconds, just do it. Sometimes Jenny feels anxious when I'm out at night playing sports and stuff. And I did have a history of staying out later than I said I would because I just get so excited about playing sports and I just want to play one more game. And I'll do that like 3 times. But upon noticing this and noticing that she'd feel anxious in that 20 to 30 minutes when I was gone, I realized it works much better for both of us if I let her know, hey, I'm going to be 20 or 30 minutes late, or I'll text her when I'm heading home. And this has saved both of our nervous systems so much headache. The few times that this happened and we kind of got into it when we got home, because I was like, I don't want to have to tell you where I am at all times. You know, I was getting defensive. This is earlier on in the relationship. And then us going to bed disconnected. Oh my gosh, that sucks. Not sleeping well. Now that doesn't happen. And I attribute a lot of this to me being open to looking for ways that Jenny wants to be reassured. If it doesn't take that much time, especially, why not do it? And all those stories that I did have about being controlled, I really don't think those are true because in reality, I get to do pretty much whatever I want. But there are some areas where I need to be more collaborative. All right. And then moving on to the third, listen and validate. I'll say this over and over. Listening is a skill. Just listening to words, anyone can do that if they're not deaf, but actually listening to understand, knowing when and how to reflect back what you're hearing, continuing to see where your partner wants to be validated, that is an art. And if you're in a marriage, this is a lifelong journey to figure out how to do this better and better. And it can change over time and it can change moment to moment. It can be hard. It can be a moving target. But if you're at least trying and your partner can tell that you're trying to really listen to them, especially when they're feeling anxious about something, this helps their nervous system relax. They might be sharing something with you and you think that they want a solution, or you might think that you want to analyze them because that will help. Usually that's not the case. They want to feel you here with them. And you do that through the way that you listen, maintaining eye contact, softening your body language, showing interest, and slowly weaving your way to that moving target of what does my partner really want me to know about them right now? And it's really cool. Like I kind of see this as a game sometimes. Like when I hit the mark and I'm like, do you want me to understand that you feel anxious because, and Jenny's like, yes. And I'm like, good, I got it. Gold star for Bryce. Plus, then we feel more connected and our relationship feels more smooth. I don't know. That's how I think about it. Sometimes I gamify things in my head, but it's not like I don't care. It's not just a game. It's a game that impacts really all the areas of my life. And so I want to get good at playing that game. All right. So just want to do a quick recap. The 3 do's when communicating with an anxious partner are: don't threaten to leave, don't dismiss concerns, and don't try to logic them out of how they're feeling. The 3 do's when communicating with an anxious partner are: be stable and consistent in your own life and how you communicate with them, offer reassurance, and then listen and validate. Good work on making it to the end of this video or podcast. I see the work that you're doing out in the world just by being engaged here. I'm wishing you the best on your journey. If you like what I have to say, remember to like, comment, subscribe, share. You can even put questions in the comments or email me, and maybe I'll do a video or I might answer on the channel. That's all I got for today, and I'll see you next week.